This is the JWN podcast. I think it will become quite obvious throughout this episode that I'm a big fan of Jordan Igoe.
When energy is not well spent.
Jordan is a singer-songwriter and multi-instrumentalist who grew up in Charleston, South Carolina. She's collaborated with some of the best musicians in the area, and she's constantly involved in the music scene in so many ways. She has a stockpile of songs she's written over the years and was gracious enough to perform one of her unrecorded songs right here. Here's my conversation with Jordan Igoe.
They become useless. When baptism does not redeem. When hope is few and far between. And when beauty queens deny their kings, they become useless. They become useless. I hate my voice.
Wait a second, you hate your voice?
I don't like the sound of my speaking voice. Like, I hear it back. It drives me nuts. I always make fun of myself.
You just... Wow.
Everyone thinks I'm crazy for thinking that.
I used to have a hang up about my voice because not every time, but it happened enough times going through a drive-through window where they say, "Okay, ma'am," and I'm like,
What?
I don't think my voice is that high. But what am I saying? Like, what am I... It happened enough where I was just like, really?
That's really funny.
Yeah. I think I hate my voice less now that I've been living in South Carolina for 16 years. Because I grew up in Long Island, and that accent is probably one of the worst accents in like America. Like Long Island, strong, Joey Buttafuoco, you know.
I think that's one of my favorites.
You really do. Now, is it just because it's so different from what you're used to?
Yeah, and also I have a lot of friends, old friends and new friends from New York and New Jersey that I don't know, it's endearing to me. I don't know why I love it so much. They would make fun of my accent and I would make fun of theirs, and it's just always a fun thing. I think it is, though, the opposite.
Yeah.
But I also just love it. I mean, seeing any older movies or series like Sopranos and just hearing that, like, I don't know, I've always been drawn to it. And I, weirdly enough, think it's kind of melodic. Other accents, not so much, and I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings, but not a really big fan of Boston accent.
That's number one for me as the least pleasing.
But some people make it sound more pleasing than others, like the Afflecks. They don't do a bad job with it.
Did you ever see that? What was it? Something baby, girl, baby. What is it? What was that Boston movie?
Gone
Baby,
Girl.
Maybe Gone, Baby Gone, or something like that. I don't know. It's an accent where everyone's overdoing. A movie where everyone's overdoing the accent, and it's so like, oh my gosh. It's almost a different language.
Yeah.
It's kind of like listening. It's the closest we have to like an Irish brogue where people are speaking and you're like, I know you're speaking English. I have no idea what you're saying. Yeah. Australia kind of sometimes can get like that because everything is...
Some parts of New Orleans and even like Gullah Geechee dialect sometimes is hard, especially for people that aren't from here.
Oh, yeah.
To understand.
I mean, I get that sometimes just out on John's Island.
Yeah. Yeah.
I remember when I first moved into this area, I encountered this gentleman, and he was a super nice guy, but he's like, I've never been more than 15 miles from this very spot. I'm like, I'm telling you, this guy was in his 70s. And I was like, really? He's like, I'm a been here. I'm like, excuse me?
Oh, yeah.
I'm been here. He was saying, I'm a been here.
There's like 3 different been here. I can't remember the other ones because I didn't grow up with that, but there's parts of Charleston where they say there's like 3 different, there's away in the upstate or something of that nature. And then farther is far. and then been here. There's like different levels. And I actually just heard that on a podcast, but I can't remember which one it was. I think it was the one with the man that tortures everyone with the wings. Hot.
There's a podcast of somebody torturing people with wings.
No, I mean, it's Hot Ones.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. He never seems to be affected at all, and it just blows my mind. And he has all these people that are used to spicy things, and they're like dying every time, and he's just like, I mean, barely.
Wow. You got to imagine at a certain point, like the receptors in his mouth are just gone.
Yeah, I think it's just maybe training, or maybe, I mean, he obviously has a really strong will to be able to do that. But
so did you grow up in Charleston?
Yes.
Wow. Which part of Charleston did you grow up in?
Mount Pleasant specifically, but my family goes back in Charleston. My daddy and my great uncle, his uncle Humphrey, and my Aunt Patty all grew up in like old Charleston, like downtown. So
my mother-in-law, who's also named Patty, grew up in Charleston, and she used to say, like, she's always amazed at where Mount Pleasant is as a community compared to when she grew up, because you never ever went to Mount Pleasant, because she was like West Ashley.
Oh,
she's
okay.
like, you didn't go over that bridge to Mount Pleasant. That was where all the derelicts, and it was dangerous. And I was like, really? Because that's where
she's lying.
Well, she's a little older, but maybe she is. I don't
Mount
know.
Pleasant?
Maybe her parents scared her because they just didn't want to go over that old bridge.
Yeah, the old bridge was scary for sure. But I feel like probably James Island and downtown have transformed the most as far as like being safer, and sadly some of downtown more gentrified or whatever. But I guess Mount Pleasant too a little bit, but Mount Pleasant's still kind of, even though there's so much development, there's still a lot of culture that people don't know about. And,
oh yeah, there's old sections that are tucked away in
right. Yeah.
And the old village is really kind of, it's interesting because it's an old area, and then everything else in Mount Pleasant, when you go further out, it's all brand new stuff. So it's
a lot of
definitely
it.
a nice contrast.
Oh yeah.
Man. So okay, tell me about your music scene growing up. Like, how did you get into this? Because to me, in my brain, in my mind, you're like, you seem to be one of those people that was just born with like an instrument in your life. Like, you are an instrument. You have this beautiful voice, and you just play piano and guitar and probably 12 other things I don't know about. So tell me about that. What got you into this whole world?
I've always loved music. I grew up around it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm spoiled. So and there's a lot of psychological trauma that's come with that, but I'm spoiled in the musical aspect, where on my dad's side family, his father taught at UNC Chapel Hill and was a concert pianist and classical composer.
Mm-hmm.
He never got to really see me play, but then my mother's side as well. Her father was a photographer. Her mother played and sang piano, so she grew up with a piano in her house. My mother, very artistic, also does photography, and so I was just spoiled. My uncle, my older sister, so I just had music all around me. It was inevitable, and luckily I could sing, so it worked out. But
it's amazing to hear like people who are brought up in that, because it's almost a situation with a lot of creatives where they're either in this environment that fosters it, or they're doing it as a rebellion. And I came, the kind of music I listened to and the people I hung out with, it was more of like the latter.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So to hear like somebody grows up with this, and you just, it's amazing how second nature it seems for you when I watch you perform. Like it seems to just be part of you, like coming out, and there's no.
Well, I definitely feel like it's a gift, regardless of what you believe spiritually or religiously. Like, it's definitely a gift. Like, I just started harmonizing that was, yes, there was musical influence, but hearing harmonies is a gift no matter what you believe. Some people have it, some people don't. You can learn it, but it's very difficult. And if you just have that ability, it feels like I didn't do anything to attain that. That just was naturally there. And I was luckily able to learn that from a young age. So I was able to do it for a really long time.
And you have, your sister who you perform with.
Yeah, Jessica Daisy.
Daisy. So the both of you together growing up, was that just like part of hanging out as a kid? Like you would sing and stuff like that?
Well, absolutely. But we have an age gap.
Yeah.
So it came later. She's 10 years older than me. And we had some family stuff. So for a long time, she was kind of like a caretaker for me. My mother did a wonderful job. But when she needed help or whatever, my sister always like wanted to take care of me. And so when I got a little bit older and started finding out that I wanted to be involved with music more than just singing around the house or whatever, and actually playing instruments, and she was writing and very musical, so I just like gravitated towards her. But yeah, we definitely had like a much stronger bond and still do because of that. So it was awesome.
And what were you guys listening to like growing up? Because I imagine as a kid, you're listening to probably stuff that your peers are listening to, but then you have this other influence.
I had lots of influences. My dad was 90s country. My mom was everywhere from Billy Joel to Bonnie Raitt to the Judds, but all sorts of influences on both sides. And then and everyone loved music. So regardless of my dad not really playing music, he loved it so much and he shared it with us. So that was cool. And then my sister also, lots of influences, I would say. Like most of the first things that I remember were Jewel and Sheryl Crow and like Alanis Morissette, like those whole like 90s rockers. But before that, I was kind of influenced by my parents more before that, I guess, because there was a gap from when she was home and then she went to college. And since we were so far apart, when I started getting into music, we was kind of like delayed. Like I got excited about it and then we were able to share it. So it was cool.
Well, that's pretty cool.
And she actually went to school for music therapy, which is also awesome.
Man, I just had an art therapy. It's not called art therapy. It's called something else. Of course, my brain just.
Well, there is art therapy.
But it's art therapy basically. But she explained the difference. Like art therapy is singular, and what she does has multiple different types of art. I don't know.
Cool.
It's a very cool. It's very cool to me to understand how to communicate with people beyond language, because language is so easily misinterpreted. It's so like when you play a song for somebody, even if you don't. I had Aggie Flores in here, and she sings all in Spanish.
I just spoke with her.
She's just wonderful.
Yeah, she's awesome.
And but listening to her music, you know what she's saying without knowing the words. You don't even know what the song's about, but you can tell like the emotion she's conveying, something that maybe can't be said. And I love to see that with all different forms of art.
Right.
Because it's just so complex.
Yeah.
And it's so easy to like fumble on this singular language thing that we're all, taught at an early age. It's one of the first things we're taught. It's how to speak. So it's not always the best thing, even though we're sitting here talking right now, it's not always the best way to communicate with people to say what you mean, or it can be misunderstood. So I love that therapy has all of these, like music therapy, like you said, like how does she, is that her career right now?
Yes.
And how does she feel? How does she feel about like mixing a passion for music with her profession in that kind of abstract way?
It's awesome. Unfortunately, what she does kind of weighs on her sometimes, because she came from working at the Cancer Research Hospital for Prisma in Greenville and then got furloughed because of COVID. But she was dealing with a lot of terminal people, obviously. And so that part is like really difficult.
Yeah.
And, I don't know how she does that. Before that, she was working with special needs. She does a little bit of both now. I think she just started a short stint that hopefully will be longer at MUSC, working with art therapists as well and other music therapists. So she's really excited about that. But even that, there's people there that, that know they're not going to make it and need that so desperately. And so it's such a vital service and profession that hasn't had a lot of attention, but like she gave me a perfect example, and I'll be vague with this because I don't know anyone's name and I don't want to be.
We don't want any HIPAA violations.
Right. I don't want any of that. But it was cool because she was speaking about one person that basically had their full attention, but the doctors and the surgeons, they were basically ignoring them because the music was so important. They were like, I don't care. I've been through all these surgeries and gone through all this pain. And the one thing that was most important to that person who was the one that needed it was her. So that like made her feel really special.
She is very special.
Yeah, she is. So yeah, it's a great thing. It's very rewarding for her, even though it's hard. And I think she's just an angel for doing it. So
yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's it. When I was a younger fella, arts were a mystery to me because I was obsessed with art and music. But I didn't know how to make a living off of it. It felt like
I still don't.
Right. It felt like professional sports. It's like either you're in like the 1% of the 1% who make it,
right,
or you're just going to be poor. And I, now that I'm an older person and I understand how a lot of these things work, and then, oh, wait a second, you could use your talent to like literally help people like make it through the toughest parts of their lives.
Right.
And yeah, I wish that was something that was talked about a little bit more.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you're into the arts. Well, guess what? There's a million things you could do with that.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's stressed upon people enough because there's so many kids like, that's what they care about. You know, I don't know how you were as a child with it, but like I get fixated on something like learning to play guitar, and I voluntarily played for like 6-7 hours every day when I was learning how to play guitar because I wanted to.
Yeah, because you're drawn to it and it's so exciting.
Yeah.
And there's people, I feel like people still have that. The people that are going to have that.
Right.
Regardless of the times. But I think it's a lot harder now because of all the distractions. And here, I didn't grow up in front of a TV really. I wasn't allowed to. And now, kids walk around with computers, which is fine I'm not judging anyone, but I would have to say that we're going to see the negative ramifications of that. And we already are, but it's going to be really bad, I think. And it's crazy because it's an overwhelming amount of information and our brains are not, especially our growing sponge brain that a child has, is not equipped to receive all sorts of information, half of it at least being wrong.
Oh yeah.
And then be able to like make some sort of logic and reason out of that. It's just
and trying to socially fit in at a young age,
and
not having those skills and trying to figure it out. So when you're at like say your school, that's most people, young kids, that's their social like learning, like stomping ground, and that's where they learn how to work with people. But there, in any kind of little clique, there's rules of engagement. And when you go on the internet, it's like you can go on one website that has an infinite amount of like a Reddit that has an infinite amount of communities inside of it. And then you got to learn each one how like, oh, I can say the sky is blue in here, but if I say that in this other part of this website, people are going to make fun of me because they'll say the sky is pink. And I'll be like, wait, what? So you got to learn all of these different things. And it's so overwhelming. There's so much to take in. And I do think when this pandemic started, I was like, can you imagine going through this back in like, 100 years ago when there's no TV, no internet, none of this stuff. People just had to sit around in isolation. And now, I bet you they probably would think the same. They'd be like, can you imagine you are a slave to this thing? And, and you spend so much of your time like on this thing, on this phone or computer or TV screen. And I feel like that made some of the anxiety coming out of this even worse. You have all of the anxiety of what you just said of like, we don't know how the long-term effects of having a computer strapped to your waist all the time. Like, we don't know. But now I shouldn't say we all, many of us sat, not isolated, but just looking at these things all day.
Well, and it was our only form of communication with the outside world at that point, which made it even more important than it already was, which, if you're a conspiracy theorist, is suspect, which I teeter back and forth on. But it's very interesting that the people with the most money are big tech right now, and that's that's then we have a pandemic that is bad, but it could be very, very bad, but at least kept everybody away from one another, except through it just made that more important, regardless of, what happened. It made it more important, which is crazy, because now we can go out, we can be around people. We're starting to be able to do that and get closer to people. And I can tell you that even though it was kind of already going away, where I would say, somebody would say, "How are you?" And I would say, "I'm good. How are you?" And that was the end of the conversation, because now that's a rhetorical question. That's not like a, "How are you?" Like, I care about your existence.
Right.
But it's like, I feel like I've noticed, because I've been playing now, and before and after this experience with the pandemic, I think it's definitely the communication is shite.
Right.
It's not good.
How's your transition from, no shows, nothing, into like this weird thing with streaming shows, and then the pod type shows, and now we're back to, not back to, but now we have indoor shows. They're not fully, they're not full capacity yet, but how's your transition been going back to this? Do you feel a lot of anxiety on top of, because I feel like I feel like it's more than, like busier, or maybe more affected by busyness than I was before,
I have anxiety for a multitude of reasons, as do most of us. But as far as like getting excited about making that work again, I've been blessed with a lot of opportunities and responsibilities that I'm really grateful for. But as far as like the music scene in general and how that has evolved drastically, even 8 years before the pandemic, this last decade, specifically the last 5 years, the way that everyone wants to be on TV, which they already did, but now they can.
Yeah. And
so that very what's the word? It's introspective, but not with reflection. Self-absorbed society where
narcissistic kind of vain.
where that's your point. And that's why we have so many young girls wearing makeup at a very young age and doing selfies and all that, which, some of it's fine if it's good for their self-confidence, but that's brought in a whole nother issue of bullying and a whole nother crazy world for these young people.
Yeah.
And that's the part that stresses me out is just having this music business that I've kind of tried to be DIY most of the time, and I have had help as well, but for the most part tried to figure out and navigate as most of us have. And I'm sure that's changed in all aspects of creativity, and then to have it completely transform as, oh, like I don't have enough content or whatever. And I'm an old soul and I do not care about these things, but I find myself, I'm forced to do that because even people older than me now are living in that world where if they want to know if I'm going to play somewhere, they don't listen to the radio. They don't read the newspaper like they used to. It's mostly social media, which I despise.
But you have to be the captain of that ship.
I have to do it.
Yeah.
And I don't despise it completely. I love the animal videos and, I love certain things about it. Of course, just like everyone else, but it's made it a lot harder and a lot more stressful for me to like figure out. And the older you get in a lot of ways, the more set in your ways or the more, the less likely you are to want to fit into a world that you don't understand. Oh, yeah. So it's been a struggle. So I'm like, hi, if anyone wants to help me do this, which I'm sure you feel the same way, like, please let me know. I will give you whatever cut I can. Just do it because I don't want to do it. Yeah, I just want to play and sing.
the social media requiring us all to become part of media.
Right. I hate media.
But I like it on my own terms.
Exactly.
I love sharing
I'm
work.
talking about like mass media.
Right. I love sharing work. I love taking a picture, being proud of it and posting it and all that stuff. What I don't like is all the things you just like, the forced aspect of it. It's like, now I'm running this is a job position. This is a marketing position now.
Yes.
That you have forced it. And as I told you earlier, like when I was a kid, I could not care less about that. Nothing could make me do that stuff. Like I would have just not even done it. But if you were talking about, posting pictures of your pets and stuff like that and things that you that's different. But
that is different.
But from a work standpoint, having to become your own publicist is not a skill that you kind of set out to do when you started this.
No, especially if you're not completely narcissistic, as you said before. I think it's a lot easier for my friends that have bigger egos than me to make that happen, or that are a little bit younger than me that kind of grew up with this a little bit. Because as far as growing up, I mean, I was already, in my late teens when the internet started really happening. So I mean, and really happening, I'm talking about, like MySpace.
Oh gosh.
Like I'm talking about like, whatever, You've Got Mail, AOL. Just not this beast that we have now.
Yeah.
Nothing like it.
There's a lot to be said about the benefits of it.
Right.
But the thing that I think we're all focusing on right now, because we're all, so many of us are going through this anxiety, is how do we manage the amount of inputs?
Right.
I mean, this morning I woke up simply because I didn't get a good night's sleep. Right. One of my dogs woke me up way too early.
Oh,
and
no.
I
hate when animals do that. I just want to punch them, but I love them too much. But I'm like, you suck.
I hate when there's another person in the bed who never gets woken up by the dog. They come to me.
Oh.
But so I woke up and I was just, because I have a long list of things I've got to do today, and all of them were out of the house. So It was just I don't need this right now. So you just automatically upset. You start off your day like that.
Yeah.
And in the last 2 weeks, I've cut out the news. I've cut out podcasts that are talking about politics. I'm trying to limit my inputs because I see how they're affecting me. So a situation like this morning, even 2 weeks ago, I would have been just a complete mess.
Right.
I would have let it consume me. Where this, I was able to just kind of be angry and then start my day and forget about it, and then let other people give me their joy, feed off of the happiness, the inputs that I had,
Choose
Yes.
what information you want to receive.
and the curating of your own inputs in life
Right.
is so important
It is so important
to your mental health.
Yeah.
And so when I ask creatives to come on this thing, I'm always very careful. It's like kid gloves, because I'm like, you might not want to talk on this thing. You might not like this whole type of situation. That might not be someone's idea of a good time, or something they might even dread. And I don't want to put somebody through that, because this should just be us hanging out, having fun, giving people an opportunity to kind of like get to know a little bit about you.
Oh, yes.
And so I'm very conscious of the idea that, like, especially when dealing with creatives, no pressure.
Yeah.
Because this is just fun. And if you want to do it, then that's fantastic. If somebody says no, I'm never offended, because I'm just like, cool, I get it. Because I know what it's like. I take pictures of people all the time. And sometimes when I'm forced to take pictures of people, like if it's someone working for someone who's paying to have their photo taken,
right,
it's a weird dynamic, because now you've got somebody who's forced into your little creative space that doesn't want to be there.
Right.
And I would much rather work with people that want to be there. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
So,
and that's how I feel about bar gigs sometimes.
Yeah.
They just want to watch the game.
Mm-hmm.
They
want
came
me there to drink.
They want me to be quiet.
Yeah. But think about being a musician is so hard.
Yeah.
Because.
It's not, though.
Well, I'll tell you why
we get paid to drink, so it's we're really spoiled, and we get paid well. So anybody that tells you that's a liar, but I hear you.
Well, what I'm saying is, you go to any like engagement, like it's a party or something like that, and there's live music.
Right.
You will see the majority of people will migrate outside because they want to talk to each other. They didn't come there for the music.
Right.
So yeah, that's what I mean. Like, it's so hard to, like, because you show up and you're like, someone's paying me to entertain these people, and they left. Like, then you're like, am I doing something wrong? And it has nothing to do. They just didn't come there for that.
Right.
You know?
And that's why I don't really give them my banter unless I'm perturbed, and then I talk a little smack like a comedian would, and usually make somebody laugh. Hopefully. I've offended very few people that way, thankfully. But, I just try to have a heart of gratitude, because it is, of course it's hard. It's hard to put yourself out there. It's not, obviously not everyone can do it. Not everyone has musical gifts, but at the same time, because I was just given these gifts, I'm able to share with whoever I want. And I do, like, I work a regular job. But, I can go play and sing and, play very little and get a lot of money compared to how other people can just go work for 3 hours. They would make a third of what a normal musician makes, or, so I'm grateful for those things. But those are all like short-term things. And then I was talking with my friend who's also a musician, Mel Washington, just about like, having those bar gigs kind of drain your soul. And then to me, that is definitely the hardest part, not the actual job, because the job is easy, but like having people not be invested or interested in the art that you're trying to share with them for their benefit. And of course it feels good when you're doing something, but when you're doing it for that reason, which I feel like a lot of people are, just trying to share their art and share their experiences and have some sort of relatability that the audience can connect with, and then feel that. Like, I feel like if you're not getting that, and that's what happens in those situations, it's just soul sucking.
Yeah. And I imagine for you, because you do a regular spot at Tattooed Moose, right?
Yes. Yeah, on Thursdays.
And so I imagine there are songs that you have to pull out in specific situations? Like if you feel the crowd is just kind of not into it, do you have a song where you can like, oh, I know what this crowd needs? Do you ever have moments like that where you're like, do you have like certain types of songs where you could just throw at something and change the mood?
Sometimes I do that, but the whole premise of that, because that's my only like really regular gig that I have, and one of the very few like bar gigs that I have.
Yeah.
For the reason just aforementioned, but I do that sometimes, but it's kind of like training a dog or a kid, positive reinforcement, and so that's what I receive.
Yeah.
So if I play a song that's a little different than a song before or a couple songs before, and I notice a better reaction, then I might stay in that for a minute.
Yeah.
But if I'm being completely ignored, I play something that I want to hear because I'm like, what's the point?
Yeah.
If it's at like a gig where I need to interact, that's a different story.
Mm-hmm.
Like where I'm doing mostly originals or something like that, and I'm feeling the crowd and their reaction because I want that connection.
Right.
And I do want the connection with everyone, but it's just like, yeah, if people aren't really paying attention, I sometimes will throw like an upbeat, country song in there or something like that, or a blues song because everyone loves the blues. But for the most part, I just will play some obscure thing like my favorite songwriter, David Bazan. I'll just play one of his songs, and nobody's really listening anyway, so they won't be sad. But even though the lyrics
you got to hear one of your favorite songs.
Yeah. Or get to share that. Yeah. And also it's great because at Moose specifically, my sister's there. She's into it. And then the staff is always up for hearing things they don't normally hear because, they have a lot of regular people and they actually enjoy our music, which we're super grateful for. And so I find myself playing for my sister and the staff more than I do. They're working. They need the morale more than anyone.
Well, I imagine in a situation like that, like, it's a bar/restaurant type of situation. People have come there for most of the people that are coming there. And it's also kind of a popular tourist name, I would imagine.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And so you're going to get out of towners in there. I imagine though, every time you play there's gotta be a handful of people that are mesmerized. You know what I'm saying? Do you find that like when you're playing those situations where let's say there's a game on, there's some sort of like football game or something going on, and most of the people are watching that, but then you find that like the people that don't care about that, and they're like, oh, this is interesting. Do you find that?
Well, you are very sweet to say that, but it's a little rarer than.
Is it?
Or maybe people just don't share that with me. What I find most interesting is playing to kids, because even kids, like really younger kids, not college. Absolutely. They're the worst, but no offense. But as far as being attentive and receiving art, you suck at it. But little kids are just, the world is so magical still, and there's so much to discover. And when they hear music, they're, Mommy, their parents, even if their parents aren't paying attention or, originally, they'll bring the family in. They'll help me connect, which is just so special to me. But yeah, I mean, there are other people that for every now and then are like, wow, what are you doing in here? And that's so great to hear and feel. But yeah, any kind of connection is welcomed. And I love playing for kids. They're not disillusioned yet. They're not bitter. They haven't experienced the stresses of life. They just understand the universal communication of music. So it's cool.
So on the topic of bitter, my favorite song of yours, and I still don't quite know if I fully understand it, but I just love it.
I don't understand most of my songs. It's okay.
The only one that matters.
Okay, yeah.
So, because it sounds kind of like a take on You're So Vain to me. Like, that's how I take it.
That's it.
Can you talk about that song? Because it's such a good song. I'm like,
thank you.
First of all, how are you not a household name because of that song? That song is just
Right?
as good as
just
any like folk country singer-songwriter rock song. Like, it's so good.
Thank you.
And I'm like, but tell me about that song, just because I love that song.
Okay, so
I'm a fan of it.
that song is, you are right, it's sarcastic. Some people don't get that, and they're like, oh, it's about self-love. And I was like, no, I have those songs. But I usually do say when I'm playing it, this is about narcissism, just so that people kind of receive, if they are listening, they kind of receive the lyrics in that way. And I'm definitely down for creative interpretations in different ways. And I'm grateful for however people receive it. But overall, yeah, that's the thing. I wrote that song when I was in the studio recording with Paul Ebersold. He has a little studio in Nashville, and good friend of mine, also my friend Sadler Vaden, was able to be in there with us a little bit and put some guitar down on that one.
I had no idea he's playing guitar on there.
Yeah, so that was super special to have. And Paul is great. He has a lot of history. He's done a lot of things musically, and is very well known in Nashville, especially in like the indie circuit. So I was really just grateful to be there, and he had some like song ideas. He mostly like played the upright bass and writes on the bass, and so I put a few lyrics and melodies to a few songs he was doing, and one of those songs is on my EP. The rest of them I wrote, but we also like kind of produced together, which was cool. But that song specifically, I just wrote in the studio in between all of that happening.
Really?
So I think because I was inspired by creativity, it just kind of came.
The muse touched you.
And I don't think I know at that point in my life, I had recently, at one of the times, it was a very spread out recording where I would, because it was in Nashville, so I would go up for a little bit, come back, go back, and it was over a long time. I feel like 9 months that I recorded off and on with him and worked on it. But I think I was going through at that point specifically some sort of a breakup situation, and I had started smoking cigarettes again. So I was just like, I was like upset, which always helps me write.
Yeah. So you find anger or hurt to be a good.
Oh, it's the best. Yeah. And it's good because I've had a lot of it. So it's a good thing that I have this outlet to use as therapy for that, which I find one of my favorite songwriters, Fiona Apple, does with Extraordinary Machine, which I'm actually going to be performing May 8th at the Charleston Music Hall for the part of the Lilith Fair tribute. But that song specifically is like what I hope to be.
Wow.
Which is
her
cool.
Her last album is like.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
And the one before that.
Yeah. She's just, she's one of those people you're like, oh, clear a path.
Yeah. But yeah, I got off track. I'm sorry.
Sorry, that's okay.
But yeah, I wrote that in the studio. And I do feel that way about Fiona. But I wrote that in the studio, and it's also that, but also things from my past that have stayed with me and hurt me off and on still, whether it be memory or a resurfacing of that behavior from that individual. And so I was just like, oh my gosh, like it's not all about you. And that song is the only one that matters, because I found, and also I have a lot of addiction around me, whether it be from friends, family, or whatever. And I've had that for a long time, since I was little. So I've seen it evolve. And I'm sorry, it's a disease for sure, but there's also a level of selfishness that is accompanied by people that use and don't think about other people, because I know a lot of people with addictive personalities, and it's the same thing with any kind of trauma you've had. Letting that trauma or letting that addiction rule your life is just, it's kind of like, it's either narcissistic, lazy, or stupid. And it's just, it's selfish. So regardless of what the intention is, which I have had troubles with it. My family has had troubles with it. So I'm not pointing fingers, but I'm just saying like everyone has the ability to change. And so that song is kind of about the intolerance of that kind of mindset where, oh, it's not my fault. It's not my fault. Yes, it is. Like take responsibility for your actions and be a better person.
Yeah.
And that's just me preaching.
It's that you just gave me a take I'd never even thought about though.
Yeah.
Because you could even say that about like something even darker, like suicide. Like it's a selfish act.
Yes.
And so, wow. See that?
Yeah.
Tell me that song. I don't know how to make it. Like there's been plenty of artists who've had some of their biggest songs become hits later on.
Yeah. I'm fine with that.
Speaking of The Sopranos.
I'm fine with being 65, sitting on my porch or working in my garden, and all of a sudden somebody's like, we got a call. That song finally sold. Great.
But it's, anyway. Let's hope that's not what happens. But it's that's so, the fact that came to you like that in that fashion too, like just kind of like you got gifted with it, I guess is part of the reason why you strongly hold the belief of that this was a gift to you, like just your talent and
absolutely. Yeah. Songwriting is not, I'm amazed because I have a friend, Danielle Howell, who is an incredible songwriter, Five Guys. Incredible songwriter, but I'm amazed by her ability to teach songwriting to other people because she can do that. She like breaks it down and is able to fine tune everything and have everything and has given me advice, which I'm so grateful for because I look up to her so much. But mine is more like like here's some art. And and I do go back and review and sometimes make my lyrics more poignant or whatever. But for the most part, it's just something that I feel like a total vessel when it happens. And I am so grateful for that. And I think it's so special.
Well, I will say that these things will happen to people who are working hard. That's, I mean, the muse
and Danielle, that's exactly what Danielle does.
Yeah.
But she's able to go above and beyond that. And I hope I'm able to learn that.
Yeah.
That part of it.
It's amazing to see some of the, most prolific musicians of, even in pop culture, how much output they have. And you're like, oh, they have some really good songs. And you realize that somebody has written hundreds of songs, and you're like, you don't even scratch the surface and,
right.
a handful. And you're like that person, David Bowie is this epic, and you might know 5 songs.
Right.
But meanwhile, he's got this ridiculous catalog.
There's so many artists like that.
Yeah.
I have an extremely large catalog, but I just haven't been able to record it. But I probably have at least 60,
60
finished songs that I feel good enough about to do something with. And that includes what I've already recorded.
Oh my goodness.
But
so you just, do you prefer performance, like live performance over recording studio type of thing? Or it's just not?
I love both.
Really?
Yeah.
And so
I love recording.
So what's
money?
Oh, that.
And I'm not that good at I'm not that good at. I tried to do it myself for a while, but I'm not that good at that side of it. But also it's I feel like I get more stage fright with putting out music than I do on stage because also I kind of feel like I don't know. I feel like maybe I don't have enough belief in myself sometimes to just follow through and get that done. And I feel like that's what's held a lot of other people back, even people that I look up to that haven't recorded enough music, that have so much music. But I also am partly cheating because I write classical music as well, a little bit on the piano. And so that doesn't have words, just, instrumental stuff. But I have, I just have to do it. It's like a mixture of motivation and fear, or lack of motivation and fear. I think that feed the beast on that one, and I'm sure that's the same for a lot of people.
Yeah. Well, it's that's exciting to know that you have
money as an excuse, though.
Right. Well, yeah, I get. The idea that you have that much, that you haven't even like unleashed recording wise is so like, that's positive to me though, because I'm like, all right, so the only thing holding you back right now is just, besides the money thing, besides getting someone to invest it. I don't know. I guess that would be the positive of getting associated with a recording label, which which in 2021, why would anyone get on a record label at all? Because you're not going to sell many physical copies of things.
Yeah, I don't really understand how anything works anymore.
It feels like you feels like you'd be better off getting a deal with like some odd, weird, like Instagram or TikTok influencer.
Yeah, exactly.
So they can put one of your songs in a TikTok song, in a TikTok video that goes viral, and now you're a huge hit. Yeah. And it's like the way of doing things. We have this foot planted firmly in the old school way of doing things, and then the new school way of doing things. But unfortunately, with the new school way of doing things, it's a lot of DIY. Yeah, you would have to learn a whole nother skill of how to record and how to,
Yeah.
It's that's a challenge, man.
I mean, it could be good though. There could be one, teenager at one point that hears one of my songs and loves it, and they live on the other side of the country and they do a TikTok.
Or on the other side of the world.
That would be great.
You'd be huge in China, and you're like, wait, what?
Yeah, yeah. And I have some friends that are completely unknown here, pretty much, and then just randomly big in different parts of the world, which is because of the internet.
Yeah, and it's amazing how other parts of the world will take music that we take for granted.
Right.
Having the type of music that you play that's of this area, or what I'm saying, it's very much low country, folk rock country. You know what I'm saying? Like it's got all of those elements.
I don't know what it is.
When I moved here 16 years ago, I didn't listen to much country at all. And like my gauge for like, I don't have a classical country upbringing beyond like Willie Nelson and what I'm saying, like that kind of
the outlaw country.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. But I don't know much of anything else,
Right.
And then I know the alt country stuff. I know Wilco. I know, what I'm saying, the Jaybirds and things like that.
Right. Love those.
But when I came down here, the first thing that I realized was, wow, most of the stuff I listen to doesn't tour. It doesn't hit South Carolina on tour. Like everyone just skips South Carolina. I mean, shoot, I looked at Hey Rocco, who is a band that was from here. They moved out west. They're on tour. They're going on tour with the Lemonheads. They just announced that. And they're skipping South Carolina. I was like, how? We can't even get South Carolina bands to play South Carolina.
Oh, wow.
But that's not what my complaint is. But I noticed that because of that.
No, that is an issue, though.
But because of that, there is a sound that exists here that's very much of the area. Because
I think
we
so,
made it. Like the people here made their own thing. They made their own scene. So we can go see regional bands that will draw just as many people as a national act or a global act. So it's pretty cool.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah,
I just hope that you're not limited to that, because I know a lot of people that do really well regionally and not as well outside of that in all different a lot of different cities, but specifically southern cities. You look at certain bands that out of Fluke, Driving and Crying. Amazing, but there's still like more of a regional phenomena than they're known everywhere, but as far as like the South, they're much bigger.
They have a much bigger draw here,
and it's and in certain parts it's so crazy, like to think that somebody with so much talent and the song, the oh gosh, I'm going straight to hell. I'm going straight to hell, just like my mama said. I got to sing that with Kevin. He asked me to sing it with him one time, and I was like, yeah. But anyway, they're huge here, but they're not. And it's not that they don't have the sound, because they have a little bit of influence, but they're from Atlanta, or parts of Georgia mostly. So they have their own thing, but it's still that same formula, like you're saying, that we have here, where it's like people understand that, or for whatever reason, it didn't get bigger than it did. And you wonder also if those people had the resources that we have now, how that would have changed for them for probably the better. Because instead of a label being able to tell you or tell the world that this is important, you can just tell them. Or your fans can just tell them.
Or some kid on TikTok who uses it in their video.
But I mean, if you have a lot of fans where you are now regionally, you're going to be fine. For the most part. I feel like that part is actually easier too, because you're not relying on just a label or just a promoter to get notoriety. You have fans that are telling people.
I mean, I could honestly, I would not be surprised. I'd be extremely happy if there was a breakout, and that, kind of like Seattle in the 90s, where the scene, all of a sudden you have somebody who blows up on a global scale and brings everybody with them. It puts a spotlight on this area that, because there's so much talent, and it's diverse. Like, you have blues and jazz musicians, and you have like punk rockers, but there's this weird kind of thin line of creativity connecting them all, that there's this kind of somewhat beachy thing going on. Like a few years ago on the West Coast, you had the beach goth thing going on. And over here, I was like, that's that's kind of similar to what we've got going on here, but it's just a little bit more rooted in some more traditional stuff as well. But man,
and it's interesting to hear that perspective, because I grew up here, so I've seen everything change a lot, and I've been in the music scene since I was probably 18 or 19, even though I wasn't allowed to drink. I started playing when I was 15. So I was
in the music scene. Yeah.
I was in my music scene, and when I was 15,
I
started playing at my school and churches and stuff like that. So I've seen a lot from people that I admire, like Jump Little Children, Slow Runner. I miss that scene, but I try not to be too much of a curmudgeon. But yes, there's so many diverse people here that I'm so grateful for. And that's one of the things I love about people like Lindsay Holler and
so talented.
People that just that bring people together. John Kenny the same. Like he tries to book as many things as possible that everyone can relate to, so that it's not. And I cannot wait, because I also work at Royal now, and I love it.
Do you?
Yeah, I started working in the kitchen.
You're kidding me.
I'm prepping and doing a little bit of cooking, but mostly prepping stuff. So.
Taylor Sawinski asked me last night for some photos of the Royal American.
Oh yeah.
And it's funny because I'd done some work for them for their website a couple of years ago. So I'm looking through these old things in the kitchen. Yeah, I'm like, look at all these potatoes, these baked potatoes, and yeah,
the baked potatoes are amazing.
They're a big hit.
They're delicious.
So, you're going to be slinging burgers in the, or will you be actually cooking, or are you just going to be kind of running?
I want to cook, and I hope if my boss hears this, he knows that I really want to cook, and I'm a quick learner. But I've been on the line. I have but it is my first kitchen job. So I think they're just kind of like seeing how I do with the prep, which I've been able to get most or all of it done. And I also bring a pretty good morale, I feel like, because I'm pretty upbeat, even though I'm pretty like low key as far as like, I'm not bitter yet also because I'm new. So I'm like, hey, everyone, like, let's have a great day. And some of them are like, I want to go to sleep, you know?
Yeah.
But for the most part, it's awesome. Everyone there is awesome. Everyone, it's a pleasure to be there and an honor. And John Kenny, the owner, is just amazing. So yeah, just back to that, just bringing a diversity to everyone. My friend Mackenzie Eddy did that for a long time. So many people have done
Justin
that.
Osborne from Susto, he came out of there as well.
Yeah. So when is this airing?
I can put it out whenever you like.
Okay.
I'm probably going to put it out Monday.
Okay. Is Monday the 3rd?
Yeah.
Okay. So I can say this then. I'm doing a show with Justin. It's going to be at the Royal American, and it might be the first show. The
first show back?
Back.
Why did I have a feeling that he'd be involved in the return?
And he told me today, I asked him, I was like, can I tell everyone? Because I'm doing this podcast. And he was like, yes, we're not supposed to announce it until May 3rd. So as long as it doesn't air before then.
It drops on May 3rd. I'll make sure it comes out on May 3rd.
It's
Monday.
June 10th at the Royal American. Doors are 9 p.m., $30 a ticket, limited capacity. And it's Susto, Rose Hotel, and me.
Whoa.
And it's just going to be acoustic version. We're going to, sing with each other a little bit, but it's going to be
So it's going to be indoors? On the classic stage?
I presume we have to do it that way. And it's great because that huge bay door is right there. Yeah. So I'm sure that they'll work it out so that the seating is spread out and all that. But yeah.
Zutel is going to be doing sound?
I sure hope so. That information I do not have. So we'll just have to
predicting that
we'll just have to be pleasantly surprised if that happens.
We're going to go back to the way things were.
Yeah.
Well, he's so busy now too.
I mean, he is busy. He's great. I love him, and he brings everyone together too. But yeah, I hope there can be more stuff. I love working with Charles, being able to produce the show that I'm doing, Women of Country, at the Music Hall the 21st. I'm bringing all of these people that I love and respect and admire. So sad that Zandrina Dunning was originally supposed to do it and she can't, but she will be on the next one. But I have just a lot of singers that I love and admire. There's still a few tickets available. That's selling out, so that's great. But that's been like, I'm just so grateful to have that opportunity because I've watched Lindsay and other people do this and bring the community together. And I've been wanting to be a part of that for a long time. So it's great. It's a little out of my wheelhouse as far as like producing something, but it's a good learning experience. And I'm just grateful that I'll be able to bring more people together and expose more of Charleston to these singers that they might not know about.
Right. Well, you just hit the nail on the head though, the bringing everyone up with you, like that whole community aspect of what goes on. And I think the Royal American for me was a place that I witnessed it where I perceived it. I was like, look at all of these musicians and they all know each other and they all jump on stage with each other. And I was like, this is unbelievable. This reminded me of being in a punk rock scene when I was a teenager.
Yeah. And like, now we have so many musicians working.
Yeah.
They're Kevin Early from High Divers and Crab Claw.
Goodness.
He and I work in the kitchen Mondays and Tuesdays. And then JP Chapa is bartending. He's in She Returns for More and plays with me a little bit, plays with some other people. So it's just like,
it's a family.
It's a family, and the people that are there that, aren't musicians love music. Mm-hmm. And it's just, it's a great work environment, and I'm really, really enjoying it. And
you know how many of us are nervous that because they're doing well without music. In other words, they've turned it around for themselves during the pandemic to figure out a way to keep the doors open and keep everything going, and they're doing well. We're all like, and no, by the way, John, if you hear this, nobody actually believes that you would ever do this, but we're like, what if bringing back music is a liability? like, what if that's a problem? Because they're doing well now.
Yeah, I'm sure that that's an aspect. And, but
I can't imagine John.
because of him also being a musician, he started, writing and playing again with his band. His drummer Dave just moved back here.
Really?
So,
I checked out his band. I'm like, man, they were
the
really
likelihood
good.
is very low. But yeah, that's the best thing. That's why that is one of my very favorite venues in the country. Because of him, because of people like him, but specifically like him treating musicians the right way, respecting art, and also like being a touring musician himself and being on a major label and doing what he's done and being able to respect people in that way is just incredible. And he also like has put most of the menu together with the help of others. But I mean, it's just amazing. Like he does everything.
Yeah. It's the Royal American is the kind of place, there's not a lot of them left.
Right.
But it's a passion place. In other words, he's got such a passion and he's surrounded himself with people who have that passion. And it's
Absolutely.
it's a magical environment for music and creative people. And you feel it. You walk in the door and you just feel so like you're just happy.
Yes.
Like, it's hard to describe because we have so many great venues around here, but like something about the Royal American, for me personally, it just feels like home, you know?
Yeah.
So.
And I think a lot of that has to do with the careful selection he does with not only music, but with the staff.
Right.
And it really is a family. When you walk into a family establishment, blood related or not, it feels that way. And that's that he's hit the nail on the head with just sending out that vibe and making people feel welcome. And that's why the Royal American is so popular.
Dude, I cannot wait for this show to start. I can't wait for shows to start back up there to begin with, but man, that's so exciting.
Yeah. If you're listening to this Monday, the tickets are on sale now, so get them. For June 10th. June
10th. Heck yeah. Do you feel like September, October, November is going to be a complete what's the word? Like a roller coaster of just, I feel like everything's going to try to come back at once. I feel like so many things got rescheduled for the fall.
Yeah.
Every music festival.
Well, my show at Music Hall's this is the 4th or 5th date that we've tried to do, and it's the one that stuck. But we had to put it off, because Charles, of course, is working for Music Hall. Charles Carmody is also a wonderful person, brings a lot of people together, and has helped the music scene tremendously. But he, wanted to consider COVID, people feeling safe, and then also being respectful of the people above him and what they want to do. So he did a good job with it, and it's good that they're able to finally they've been having shows too. So yeah, it's great.
That's so fantastic. So let me ask you a question. Do you want to play some music?
Oh, sure.
Yeah, let's take a break for a minute and set up.
Kathy over here.
Yeah, no, let's play a little bit of music. All right,
okay,
hold
sounds
on.
good.
I'm going to pause this, and through the magic of recording technology, it'll just be a millisecond for y'all.
Wow. Yeah.
So real quickly, what's the song about?
So this song is about it's a positive song. And it's called Come Alive.
Okay.
There's like one little sarcastic line in there, but for the rest of the song, it's a positive thing about being grateful and just having a heart of gratitude, which is very important to me. So, yeah.
All right, let's do it.
Come Come alive, it's not too late. The voices in your head can stand to wait. Time, sweet time, oh, don't delay. You can have better days. Come alive, for heaven's sake. Don't waste your breath with words of hate. Come alive, the power is yours to take. Make up your mind today. Be nice, be real nice, don't you be cruel. The good Lord and Satan are watching you. Now's the time, sweet time, so don't delay. You can have better days. Come alive, for heaven's sake. Don't waste your breath on words of hate. And all the power is yours to take. Make up your mind today. Time, sweet time, oh, don't delay. You can have better days.
That's just wonderful.
Thank you. Short and sweet. Just like me.
Wow. Let me ask you a question. Let me hold on a second. I'm gonna get rid of some of that reverb on your voice for a second.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So when you're writing a song like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
The structure of the song, not the content, not the chord progression, but like, do you write it as a full song, or do you write a song like specifically this one? Did it come as like you came up with this chord progression and then you started coming up with a harmony and putting lyrics to it,
Mm-hmm.
and then construct it afterwards, making like, okay, here's a verse, here's a chorus, here's a bridge, that kind of thing, or did it just come out as a full product?
So they're all different. They're all of the things that you mentioned. Sometimes music first, sometimes a melody first, sometimes an idea, sometimes a progression or whatever. But this one specifically, I feel like I was just finger picking, and my friend Ryan Wolfgang Zimmerman, who records a bunch of local people, he had this classical acoustic, and I just liked the way it sounded. So I started picking, and I'm not sure how the rest of the song evolved. It was kind of like a magical situation for that one. But
you just kind of, my follow-up question, you just kind of hit upon too. The instrument that you picked up.
Yeah, that was it. It's always different though. So a lot of times I write on the piano.
But you picked up an instrument, and the sound of the instrument kind of, it was almost like a sail in the wind, and you just kind of like went with it and started playing that chord progression, the finger picking.
Yeah, that time, yeah.
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 Do you ever find like an instrument kind of speaks to you in that, besides that specific time? Has that happened to you often? Or
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm very grateful. My mom has this like really old antique piano from the early 1900s, and it's not a studio upright, which is what most pianos are. It's a regular upright, which, as you probably know, has longer strings, so it sounds more like a baby grand, even though it's an upright. Just a lot of booming, a lot of low end. And so having that in the house, I wrote mostly on that at first. And I started piano at 10, and then I taught myself guitar at 15. So that was the grounding. And I'm so glad that I learned on piano, as everyone that learns piano first says, because it's percussive, but it also has all of the notes. So it's so easy to pick up an instrument or sit down at the piano and just be like, here's a thing, because it's already magical. Even if you don't know what you're doing and you're just sitting there pressing, keys, it just sounds so pretty.
You can hit these 3 keys and you all of a sudden hit a chord and you're like, ooh, this sounds cool together.
Right.
Then you break it down.
Yeah.
Wow.
But sometimes I write without an instrument a lot when I'm driving, or this is kind of embarrassing, but like when I'm like peeing.
No, I get it.
Like I've gotten a lot of songs, or at least like the hook for a song when I'm in the bathroom just by myself for a few minutes. And it's just like, oh my gosh. Or in the shower, or sometimes I wake up with it, which is a real gift. Like it was like in my head.
Yeah.
That's really crazy. But
do you get the dreams of like you have this amazing song in your head and you wake up and you're like, can't figure it out.
It's usually gone because the way that the brain works, it's like a very short window of when you actually have the dream and wake up. And
I feel like most songwriters are chasing that song that they know exists in their head that they can't quite remember.
Yeah.
It's kind of
I have remembered it a few times though, which is really great. I'm grateful for that.
Okay, I'm going to ask you another a nerdy gear-related question.
Okay.
Because you come across as somebody who's very, I would say almost not traditional, but like not into lots of stuff, right?
Yeah.
You're not going to pull out a pedal board.
Right.
With a million things.
I like the pedal board.
I was going to say, do you ever dabble in those things that are outside of your comfort zone as far as like what? Because I think guitar specifically has a tendency to attract, kind of like photography, a lot of people who are into stuff, into gear.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? There's so much stuff that you could get for guitar. Do you ever dive into that, or is that just kind of not your thing?
I respect it. I love it, and I admire other people doing it. And I've used a little bit. I used to do a 1-woman band thing where I played drums with my feet at the same time, which isn't really the same thing, but just as distracting, I guess, as pedals are. But my focus is, and maybe this is actually egotistical, but my focus is the song. So the reason why I haven't spent more time doing that is because I don't want to take away from the words, that the lyrics are important to me and important to share. And I feel like if there's too much distraction on my end or the output end, then it might not translate the way that I want it to. But I respect other people for doing it. But I'm not, I've got a vintage tremolo amp that my awesome friend Ben traded me for a drum set, and I actually still owe him money on that. Sorry, bud. But it's an amazing amp, and it's just really simple tremolo, and it works well with this guitar. And I'm like, if I like the tone, I just don't mess with it. So
that's pretty cool. Yeah. I just because your first record is such a big sounding full
and then
band.
it's full of gearheads in there.
Oh, I mean, who's playing guitar on that record?
That's Mackie Balls from Royal Tinfoil.
Yeah, like just shredding. I feel like that guy just was like, "Oh, I can shred." Bam!
He was having a party, and that's how we did it. And we also had a side project called Double Trash, which was perfect for him because it was just the two of us. And that was when I started doing the 1-woman setup where I was kind of doing drums and guitar, and he was just ripping it, and it was like the perfect.
That's so cool.
Thing. Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, and but then your EP that came out, was it 2019? It came out, or 2018?
That was actually 2017.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
I think so.
I don't know. It felt like yesterday. Like I remember.
Maybe I'm wrong.
For me,
maybe I did the single, and then the single I released first was the one that you like, and then the only one that matters, and then the Sober and Sorry EP came about a year after I released the single. So maybe you're right.
Yeah. And that was still like a lot of instrumentation, but it was a little bit more.
That was the Nashville clean sound.
Yes.
Yeah. So you got the Charleston dirt, and then you got the Nashville, radio edit.
What about just an acoustic record with you and your sister or something like that?
Yes.
Like just even an EP, just a stripped down, something like you just did, maybe with very minimal.
Yeah, I would love that.
Because I think your songs work no matter what clothes you put on it.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
And I, if you had to
that's
today,
how I feel. But most people are like, "Where's the band?" Like even recording or live, they're always like, "We want to see you with the band," and I'm like, "Yeah, you need to work on your attention span."
Right.
You know?
Well,
of course, because I'm not. I'm so like, what's wrong with just me? You know. But I like it with the full band. I love my band. I'm so grateful for everyone that plays with me. But
because I think you could pull it off perfectly, and make it work.
Yeah,
just that straight to the heart.
That's good to hear.
Yeah,
I'll do it.
I mean,
you've convinced me.
Do you have a set list of songs, like not a set list, a track list of songs that you would prefer to be stripped down? Do you does that exist in your head? You're like, you know what? I don't think this song really needs anything else.
There are some songs. There's one from the first record that I was gonna redo, put on the second record. It was supposed to be a full length, but ended up being an EP because I was so picky. Paul didn't do anything wrong, but as far as like what I'm hearing and what somebody else is hearing, if there's not a happy marriage with that, then but I'm working on something else with Wolfie at Rialto, but it's hard. He's busy.
Right.
And I love him, and everyone loves him because he's so easy to work with, but he's like, him and I have kind of that perfect marriage of creative stuff in the studio, and he just lets people do what they do. And then if he has a suggestion, I'll kind of be like, what about this? And then like, sometimes you're like, oh, why didn't I think of that? Because it's so like, it's almost like your subconscious talking, the way that he presents it. So, but yeah, hopefully I've started some songs with him that are more stripped down, but also different than either that you've heard.
Yeah.
So, I want to do that. And then a full length, and then I think an acoustic EP. I definitely have a bunch of songs that I want to do.
I'm trying to imagine because
that one that I just performed, I can't see why you would need much for that one.
Right.
So
yeah, it's a perfect. There's nothing you've presented what needs to be presented. That it doesn't. I don't know if anything would add to it. You know. Like that's
well, my sister's singing with me. Yeah, that would be the only thing.
Yeah. Well, that's But would you ever consider doing something so out of your wheelhouse too, like taking one of your songs and making it into an electronic song, like going maybe down the route of like a Two Slices or a Grace Joyner or something like that?
I would do all sorts of stuff. Yeah.
You're down for musical exploration of your songs. Yes.
And I mean, rock and roll really, like, that's my jam too. So if I was ever just leading, like, and having a less of a, because that's one of the things I'm kind of working on with Ryan is making things like not necessarily the instrumentation that I would do, but still but having that space there, but also that rock there. So, I'm down for all sorts of stuff, and I'm always constantly trying to write and adjust melodies to suit that. I have one song I'm working on right now that is that. It's like more dancey, so it would be perfect for electronic or something like that.
I just ask these questions because I feel like you as a songwriter could probably fit yourself into any style. You know what I'm saying? Like you seem to have a really good connection to your emotional what's the word I'm looking for? Like you have this just great way of presenting the lyrics. You know what I'm saying? Like they're just beautiful. Like I don't know.
Thank you.
I feel like I'm kissing your ass at this point.
I don't mind. and I honestly, especially like lyrically, do not hear a lot of encouragement on that end just because of what I do. Like, most people don't. So for any songwriter to have their lyrics received and praised is just the biggest compliment. So I appreciate it.
Well, it's just so cool to have a person with the caliber of talent that you have. That is so no. I'm sorry, lapping it on here, but it's so involved.
I'm just
in the music
I'm
scene.
bad at taking compliments.
But I would put you. I'm saying like Lindsay is another person. Who is just constantly lifting up all this things we talked about before about the scene that lifts each other up.
Mm-hmm.
But my goodness, there are a lot of people in this scene that I'm like, how's the spotlight not on this right now? Because it's so good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I feel like I'm rambling on a compliment.
No, I feel that way too about so many people. And that's why, me and all the people I mentioned earlier focused on making Charleston heard.
Yeah.
So.
But yeah, you've made it into an amazing place, and hopefully we'll continue.
Yeah.
But let me ask you a question. You hate your social media, but I couldn't find a website for you.
Oh, exactly.
Right. So I guess the best way for people to get in touch with you or keep up with
I don't hate my social media, okay?
Okay.
I just...
Not your social media. You hate social media.
I just don't like receiving a lot of it, yeah.
Right.
I'd rather play a video game than watch people's stories because I don't really care about what everyone else is doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Unless there's a dog or a cat or like a cute little baby, and then I'll probably watch it.
Do you have any music videos that like?
I do. I have one that my friend from Pearson Collective, Chad, recorded for Sober and Sorry, which is the title track on my EP. That's available on YouTube. If you just put in Jordan Igoe, Igoe, Sober and Sorry, it'll come up. As far as social media, I'm most prevalent on Facebook and Instagram. My Instagram's connected, so I usually just post on Instagram, either story or post, and I will try to do better, everyone.
So in my mind,
I promise.
You're going to write this. You're going to put out this acoustic EP with your sister, and you're going to have whatever the single is just going to have dogs in it.
Well, actually, I have a music video that has all cats and one dog in it that I made myself.
Well, there you go.
It's just a slideshow, and it's a cover of You Have to Wait Till Christmas. It's a cover of Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas. But I recorded that one with Ryan, and actually Luke Mitchell helped us from High Divers.
Yeah.
We used his piano, so that was cool.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's
but
awesome.
so you can see the dog and the cats already, but more to come.
All right. Perfect. I love it. I'm a huge Phoebe Bridgers fan.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if you follow any of her, but like she just got this new like dog, and I'm all about it.
I will check it out.
I'm all about musicians just with their dogs or cats.
Yeah.
I shouldn't be mean to cats.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah.
I'm all about it.
Don't be mean to the cats.
No. Well,
all the animals need love.
All right. Is there anything else you wanted to share before we wrap this up?
I am good. I'm just grateful to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
And thank you so much for coming. And hopefully I didn't make you uncomfortable with all the compliments.
Oh no. Like I said, that was great. I don't receive them well in conversation, but they always feel great. So thank you so much. I can't help myself. I'm a victim of the times. I try so hard, but I just can't get out of my mind. It's your fault that I lie. Snake in the grass, I'll take you by surprise. You won't feel my bite till you bleed before you die. It's your fault that I sneak by. Take time to thank me for all that I have done, 'cause I'm the only one that matters at all. Take time to thank me for all that I have done, 'cause I'm the only one that matters at all. My disease is the ruin of my life. I can't help it when my words cut you like a knife. It's all your fault that I get high. Take time to thank me for all that I have done, 'cause I'm the only one that matters. Don't you look at me that way, for surely you are wrong. I'm the only one that matters at all. I'm the only one who matters. I'm the only one who matters at all.
Before you get going, don't forget to subscribe to the show if you haven't already. And also, you can check out more at jwnpod.com or follow me on Instagram at Joe Latex. That's at JOEL8X. Have a great day. Peace.